Good evening, everyone. This is Vibhana Sheen, and I'm doing a reading from the book Messages from the Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. This is chapter 5, and we are doing the reading from chapter 5. This is part 2 of the reading. So let's begin. Letting go of insecurity. Remember, the voice said. Remember that you are always loved, you're always protected, and you are never alone. You also are a being of light, of wisdom, of love. You can never be forgotten. You can never be overlooked or ignored. You are not your body. You are not your brain, not even your mind. You are a spirit. All you have to do is to reawaken to the memory, to remember. Spirit has no limits, not the limit of the physical body, nor of the reaches of the intellect or the mind. One of our greatest faults in our overwhelming concern about outcomes. We are preoccupied with results, and this preoccupation creates unnecessary anxiety, fear, and unhappiness. The anxiety is about our performance. What if our performance does not measure up? What if we fail? What will the others think? How harshly will we judge ourselves? The fear relates to the loss of the desired goal or object. If we fail, we are convinced we will not get what we want. We will be failures, losers. We will be rejected. We will hate ourselves. Instead of worrying about specific outcomes and results, just do the right thing. Reach out unselfishly. Hope for the best. Hope is fine. Expectation is not, because when expectation is present, disappointment is always lurking nearby. While meditating one morning, a very clear and distinct message appeared suddenly and powerfully in my mind. Love one another with all your hearts and do not fear. Do not hold back, for the more you give, the more returns to you. You yearn for the illusion of security instead of the security of wisdom and love. Money is neutral, neither good nor bad. What we do with money is the important part. With money, we can buy food and clothing for the poor, or we can choose to use it selfishly, squandering the opportunity. The choice is ours, and the lessons will all eventually be learned. Money and security are not the same thing. Security can only come from within. It is a spiritual trait, not an earthly one. Money is of the earth. You cannot take it with you when you leave. We can lose everything overnight if that is our lesson or our destiny. Security derives from inner peace and a knowledge of our true essence, which is spirit. We can never really be harmed because we are immortal and eternal, because we are spiritual beings, not physical bodies, because we are always loved and protected, because we are never alone, because God and an army of loving spirits always protect us. because we are all of the same essence. And so there is no need to fear. Instead, this truth is the secret of our security and our joy. Love one another with all of your hearts and do not fear. Do not hold back, for the more you give, the more returns to you. Tom's regression to England in the 19th century was very detailed. Even as he described himself, his house, and his circumstances, slowly and completely, I knew that he was aware of much more than he was able to verbalize. In his current life, he was plagued by an unreasonable fear of loss. In his past life in England, too, he had detected an insecurity. He described a lush country with rolling hills and large old trees. I'm a landowner, mid 40s, but I'm not upper class. My house is like a country estate house. I have a wife and two boys. What has pulled you to this time? I asked. I'm well to do, I'm comfortable, I'm sort of established, and yet there is some anxiety because I'm not in the upper class. And at any point, I'm insecure that they could take it all away or I could lose it. I advanced him in time to the next significant event in that life. There's a fire in the barn, he nervously answered. It's raging and I'm trying to get the animals out. A couple of horses I can get out, some of them I can't. I think the house is on fire also. What happens? I asked. The boys are away, but I think my wife dies, he mournfully answered. How do you feel? Can you remember everything now? I'm very distraught. Do you know how the fire began? I think someone set it. He paused for some moments. Do you know who set the fire? There were people in the village. I think it's because I was Jewish. After the fire had killed his wife, he left England and came to America. But his sadness continued and he lived a fairly solitary life. I took him ahead to the last day of the lifetime. I'm in the bed. I'm old. And my two boys are there with their families. It's still a little strange being in a new land, but I'm ready to go. He died and left his body. I'm aware of. There's still this feeling of having been injured for something I was not, for something I did. He had become aware of how anger and prejudice and hate could lead to terrible harm. But there had been a positive lesson also. It's my sons, that love, that family feeling. This was consolation for me. Tom, who is not Jewish in his current life, had learned far more than the roots of his insecurities and fear of loss. He had learned that hate and prejudice can lead to incredible violence and pain. He had also learned that love is the consolation for all pain. It was not Tom's task in that past life to punish or even to judge those who had burned his house and killed his wife. Karma, divine law, will take care of that. Tom's task is to understand and to forgive. That is the task of love. The security of your spiritual house. A message awakened me from my sleep. You are a carpenter building your spiritual home. I heard. How many hammers are necessary to build your spiritual house? Are 1,000 better than one perfect hammer? It is the quality of the house, not how many hammers the carpenter has. We spend far too much time trying to accumulate hammers and not enough time building our spiritual home. Sometimes your biological family is not your real family. Your parents, your siblings, and your other relatives may not understand you. They may not express love and caring to you. They may reject you and treat you cruelly. You are not obligated to be treated inhumanly. There is no karmic responsibility that is met by being a target for the abusive behavior of others, family or not. To abuse or to harm someone is an act of choice or free will by the abuser. Abuse is never deserved. As you grow older, you may find yourself surrounded by friends and others who genuinely care for you, who provide the security that comes from being loved and treated with dignity and respect. These friends and loved ones become your true family. They may share your spiritual values too, and you may help them or may help each other evolve in a positive way. These people are your spiritual family. If you are rejected by your blood family, your family of origin, then your spiritual family takes you in, nurtures you, and becomes the important family for you. I'm not saying to abandon your family of origin or not to keep open good communication and a compassionate heart. But you must not allow yourself to be abused, whether psychologically or physically. You must not rationalize abuse or as tolerable merely because its source is your family, your friends, or your religious community. There is an old saying that says, blood is thicker than water. This means that when times are tough and your friends and acquaintances may fail you, you can still usually count on your blood relatives to come through for you. I say that if indeed blood is thicker than water, then spirit is thicker than blood. You can always depend on your spiritual family to be there for you. Chapter 6. How Understanding Heals. All is love, all is love. With love comes understanding. With understanding comes patience, and then time stops, and everything is now. The deepest parts of our minds are not subject to the usual laws of time. Events that occurred long ago can still affect us with penetrating immediacy. Old wounds influence our moods and behavior as if they were inflicted yesterday, and sometimes their power even increases with time. Understanding can help to heal these traumas because the deeper mind is not subject to the usual condition of time and space. Events of the past can be rescripted and reframed. Cause and effect are not so inextricably bound. Traumas can be undone and the damaging effects can be reversed. Profound healing can occur, even at vast distances and even after many years of pain and hurt. Just as love brings profound healing to our relationships, understanding brings a lessening of fear. Understanding opens the window through which love's breeze gently blows away our doubts and anxieties, refreshing our souls and nurturing our relationships. Our fears are often of events that have already happened earlier in this life or even from lifetimes long past. Because we have forgotten, we project these fears into the future. But what we fear is actually finished. All we have to do is remember to awaken to the past. A young South American woman wrote to me about her awakening and the healing that resulted. I have read all your books, and I was really impressed by the stories of people's past lives and even how it can cure certain phobias. In the last few pages of one of your books, Through Time into Healing, you teach the reader how to do a self hypnotizing procedure. I want to share with you what I saw and felt. Before anything, let me explain that I have to do it 5 times before I really got into a trance. The thing is that I was very nervous before and I wouldn't let myself concentrate. Well, since I met my boyfriend and we started going out a year and 3 months ago, I have been very scared of losing him. It was not normal though, because even suicide went through my mind. The worst was that he never gave me any reason to even think that since he showed me so many times how much he loves me. One day I was feeling very bad and I said to myself that it had to stop. Then I remembered how I had recorded on the tape the whole procedure. This time I did it with that exact goal to find out why I was so scared. Immediately I could see myself sitting on the starry road. It was 1679 in France. I was French and my name was Mary Claire. I was around 20 years old and very pretty with long black hair. I was wearing brown rags and some sandals. This gave me the idea that I was very poor. I had a baby in my arms and I was crying non-stop. Then I saw someone else in that scene. I recognized him as my boyfriend in today's life. His name was Pedro. He was from Spain. He was around 40 years old and was very tall and skinny. We were together and the baby was ours. He was also crying desperately. Then two guards came into the scene and pulled him away from me. I saw him reaching out his hand for me and screaming for the guards to let him go. That was all I saw, for I got too excited and opened my eyes. The incredible thing, though, was what I felt afterwards. I wanted to scream of happiness, to laugh a lot. I felt so free and I hope so too. Yet I realize that this is more than a treatment. It is an understanding of how life works and how relationships are ever renewed. It is an understanding of how we never really lose our loved ones. Here these two people are, 300 years later, alive and healthy in new bodies, beginning to share their lives and love once again. It is this understanding that heals, and through the understanding, love is eternally renewed and manifested. The two did not meet again by accident or by coincidence. Destiny delicately dictated the rediscovery of their love. Before they were even born again into the present day bodies, They had already agreed to meet at a certain time in their lives. They would meet, they would recognize each other at some deeper level as soul companions through time. And then they would have to make decisions about the future of their relationship in this reincarnation. Would their egos, their logical minds, enculturated by family and society, interfere with the awareness of their hearts, an awareness stirred by the reunion with a soulmate? Or would their hearts prevail, overriding the obstacles of the conscious mind? Certain fears and patterns would resurface. In her case, the irrational fear of an unwanted and tragic separation, because this trauma had happened before, 300 years ago in France. Since at first she did not remember that ancient event, although her unconscious soul memory knew it well, she feared it would happen in the present or future. One of her karmic tasks: overcome her fear of separation by understanding that love is an absolute energy, that love never ends, not even with the death of the physical body. We are always reunited with our loved ones, either on this side or the other. Although her soul knew this, she forgot her past life connections with her lover when she was born into this life. Her task was to remember the immortality of love, to use this knowledge to overcome her fears. This knowledge leapt from her heart to her conscious mind when she listened to the tape she had made from my book and remembered that French lifetime. Now she knew at all levels, and she immediately let go of her ancient and present day fear. She could love freely. She did not need to hold back, fearing the loss of a love. This young woman's experience is an excellent example of the fact that before we are born, we help to set up and arrange those learning opportunities in our lives, the destiny point that will help us to understand, to embrace love, and relinquish fear. We are helped by divine, spiritual energies in devising our lesson plans. Some feelings of deja vu represent the dim remembering of our prenatal plan as it becomes reality in physical state at the designated time and place during the unfolding of our lives. We remember. It is extremely important to pay serious attention to the coincidences, the synchronicities, and the deja vu experience in our lives because they often represent the convergence of our spiritual plan and the actual path we are traveling during our lifetime. When we remember, whether through past life memories, dreams, deja vu experiences, coincidences, and synchronicities, spontaneously during spiritual moments or mystical events, or in any other way, we begin to understand. As we understand, we let go of fears. As we let go of fears, the obstacles to love disappear and love flows freely within and between and among us. I'm often asked how you know when a memory is real and when it may be imagination or fantasy. Interestingly, on the therapeutic level, it does not seem to matter. People get better, their symptoms disappear. It does not even matter whether the patient or the therapist believes in past lives. However, according to a 1994 USA Today, 27% of Americans do believe in reincarnation. This figure is probably significantly higher today. 90% believe in heaven. At the level of validation, however, it does matter. As clinicians and scientists, we would like to know which recollections are real and how to differentiate actual memories from fantasies. Sometimes differentiating is easy, sometimes exhibiting xenology, the ability to speak a foreign language he or she has never learned, is probably touching upon an actual past life. Or else that person has tremendous psychic ability. The past life nature of this ability usually becomes apparent during the regression. A person exhibiting detailed knowledge of a particular historical period he or she has never studied is another clue. An odd and anachronistic symptom, such as a present day fear of guillotines with a subsequent regression to a late 18th century lifetime, would be another strong indication. There are several other characteristics of memories that seem to be real. These memories tend to be more vivid and oftentimes more visual than fantasies. The person is more emotionally involved and finds himself or herself in the scene. The scene unfolds like a movie sequence and usually feels familiar. The past life panorama echoes themes and problems present in the current life. The mirrored problems or symptoms, which may be physical as well as psychological, usually improve or resolve following the remembrance. In addition, the regression scene is not altered by suggestions from the therapist. The scene has a life of its own, and the details of remembered scenes become more and more clear with repetition. Another frequently asked question is whether or not past life memories can be explained as genetic memory. That is, are the memories coming from our genes or chromosomes, the genetic or reproductive material that we inherit from our parent, who in turn inherited genes from their parents, and so on, all the way back to our most ancient ancestors? Although some general memories may indeed be passed on through our genes, I do not believe that most past life memories are obtained this way. There are several reasons to the contrary. 1. Many of my patients have recalled lifetimes in which they died as children or were childless, never having transferred any genetic material at all. The memories of these childless lifetimes are quite often detailed and vivid. Number 2. The specificity of the memories can be remarkable. A patient may remember a Middle Ages battlefield scene and find exactly the one soldier he was among 10,000 on the field. The wounds of that particular soldier often correspond to a current life physical ailment which typically begins to resolve after the past life scene is recalled. One would not expect such a high degree of specificity with genetic memories. Even the concepts of collective unconscious or of racial memories do not allow for the remarkably detailed memories that patients often provide. The memories evoked are not of broad archetypes or categories, but of the tiniest details, often accompanied by powerful feelings and emotions. Number 3. Many memories have occurred outside of the physical body where there is no genetic material. For example, In the example cited above, which is from an actual patient experience, some of the memory is from after the physical death, when the person was floating above his body and surveying the scene beneath him. He observed the body he had just left, its conditions and wounds, as well as the entire battlefield scene. And what was still unfolding was the battle progressed to its end. During his above the body visual survey, he also experienced emotions and thoughts. This brings us to the end of chapter 5, part 2. Chapter 6, part 1. We will continue tomorrow from where we have left with a new subchapter, which is remembering the key to happiness in this life. Till that time, this is Vibha Nashin signing off. Take care.